The moment the car skidded across the icy Wyoming backroad, I felt my entire life jolt forward like a loose photograph in the wind. 1 second I was laughing with my best friend's mom, Karen Whitmore, about how ridiculous the weather app had been that morning, and the next I was staring through the windshield at a wall of swirling white darkness, the world shrinking into a claustrophobic tunnel of snow. The storm swallowed us so quickly it felt alive, like some wild creature closing its jaws around our tiny SUV. And in that breath-stopping moment, as the engine sputtered beneath the hood and Karen whispered, "Oh Lord, please help us," I realized we were truly alone out there. If you believe in the power of kindness, second chances, or unexpected blessings, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe right now. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts. The wind roared like a freight train outside, hammering snow against the windows so fiercely it vibrated the metal frame. When the engine gave one last trembling cough and died, the silence inside the car became its own kind of storm. I stared at Karen, unable to hide the tremor in my hands. She was my best friend Oliver's mom, the woman who had fed me countless times at their home in Cheyenne, the woman everyone described as unshakably calm. But even she looked taken aback, breath fogging the air, her eyes mirroring the whiteout around us. The temperature dropped alarmingly fast. The air grew sharp, almost metallic, biting skin, numbing fingers. I felt panic claw at my chest, the bitter realization that we were stranded miles from the highway, with no cell reception, no heat, and a storm so brutal the road behind us had surely vanished under feet of snow. But Karen wasn't a woman who surrendered to fear. She reached across the console, resting a warm, firm hand on mine, grounding me in a way that surprised me. She said gently, almost like a mother trying to calm a child, that we would get through this. She told me God had never abandoned her yet, and she didn't believe he would start now. Her voice carried a steadiness that felt like a lifeline. She was shivering though, and so was I. The cold crept in like a thief, robbing the warmth from our bodies piece by piece. Karen pulled a thick blanket from the back seat, the kind she used for road trips, but it wasn't enough for the two of us separately. When I apologized for not wearing a heavier jacket, she shook her head with that same gentle firmness. Then she explained simply, without hesitation or embarrassment, that we'd have to keep each other warm if we wanted to avoid hypothermia. Her tone was practical, focused, almost fierce in its protective instinct. So we moved to the back seat where the blanket could fully cover us, sitting close, the freezing air making every breath a visible prayer. I felt awkward at first, unsure how to position myself beside her without seeming strange, but the human need for warmth quickly overpowered everything else. She wrapped her arms around me like a mother might, but there was a tenderness to it, a reassurance, a sense that in this blinding, freezing wilderness, connection was the only real shelter we had left. The storm raged on outside, but inside that tiny cocoon of fabric and shared body heat, time slowed. The fear didn't disappear, but it softened at the edges. Karen asked me to tell her about the worries I'd been carrying lately, the ones she sensed but I hadn't spoken aloud. Somehow, in the dark hush of that snow-buried car, I confessed things I had never intended to share with anyone. The pressure I felt at college, the guilt about disappointing my parents, the loneliness that kept me up at night. She listened like every word mattered. She didn't judge, didn't lecture. She just held me and told me she understood, told me that she too had struggled at my age, that she too had felt lost. She spoke about raising Oliver after her divorce, working 2 jobs, wondering if she'd ever be enough. Her honesty stunned me. She had always seemed so strong, so put together. To hear her speak of doubt made her feel more human, more real. It made the storm seem less terrifying too, because suddenly I wasn't facing it alone. Hours passed, long, slow, aching hours. The cold seeped deeper, settling into our bones despite the blanket. The night felt endless. The storm outside hissed, moaned, screamed. Every time a gust shook the car, I felt the fear rise again, but each time, Karen tightened her arms around me, steadying me with simple human closeness. At one point, I felt my eyelids drooping, exhaustion pulling me under. Karen nudged me awake softly, her voice trembling from the cold but still gentle. She told me not to fall asleep, not in that kind of freezing temperature. So I fought to stay conscious. We sang softly to keep our minds alert, old hymns Karen grew up with, tunes that echoed faint hope in the darkness. There was something comforting about her voice, even when it cracked from the cold. A strange peace grew between us, the kind formed only when 2 people survive something together. She wasn't just my best friend's mom anymore. She had become something like a guardian angel in that moment, someone God had placed in my life for reasons I didn't yet understand. Sometime around dawn, the storm weakened. The wind quieted from a roar to a whisper. Gray light filtered through the frost-layered windows. But the cold had deepened dangerously. My fingers were stiff, my breathing shallow. Karen's face looked pale, her lips tinged with blue. She kept whispering that we were okay, even though I could see the fear beginning to flicker behind her eyes. I don't know how long we sat like that, drifting in and out of alertness, clinging to warmth that kept slipping away like sand through our fingers. But at some point, through the heavy blur of exhaustion, I heard a distant scraping sound. A rumble. A metallic clatter. Karen jolted upright. She shook me awake, her voice urgent, hopeful. We listened again, and there it was. The rhythmic growl of a snowplow somewhere beyond the trees. Hope surged so hard it hurt. We banged on the windows, yelled with what little strength we had. It felt like minutes stretched into lifetimes, but eventually the plow's lights cut through the fogged glass. A rescue crew rushed toward us, pulling open the doors, wrapping us in thick emergency blankets, asking questions in voices that sounded far away. As they lifted Karen out, she kept her eyes on me, smiling weakly. Even then, she whispered that we had made it, that God had carried us through. We spent the next few hours at a small local clinic where nurses fussed over us with heated blankets and warm drinks. Karen kept reaching for my hand, checking on me like I was her own child. When Oliver arrived, pale and frantic, he pulled both of us into a crushing hug. I saw the tears in his mother's eyes as she held her son close, and something inside me swelled with gratitude so deep it made my chest ache. The storm eventually cleared, but the experience never left me. That night changed something inside both of us, I think. It taught me how fragile life is, how quickly everything can be taken, how deeply people can impact each other in moments of crisis. Karen became more than just my friend's mom. She became someone I admired, someone I respected, someone whose strength and warmth saved my life in more ways than one. Weeks later, when she invited me over for dinner, she pulled me aside before the meal began. She told me she was proud of me for opening up that night, proud of the man I was becoming. She said the storm had taken so much, but it had also given us a kind of unspoken bond, one built not on fear, but on shared survival and compassion, and I realized then that sometimes the harshest storms lead us to the strongest people.